Today, we're here to answer one question. Do you dare to be different? We're going to be comparing this 1996 Toyota Hiace and this 2011 Toyota Tacoma from different parts of the world to see which Toyota fits you best. So without further ado, I'm George with Dagger's Garage, and I'm going to take you around my 2011 Toyota Tacoma. Get over here, Connor. He's going to take you around his 1996 Toyota Hiace.
Hey guys, I'm Connor. Thanks for having me on Dagger Garage today. I'm the owner of the 1996 Toyota Hiace. So without further ado, like George said, let's get into these two trucks, compare them, and see what they're made of. All right, so today I'm up first, and as you guys tell, I did dare to be different, and I'm going to explain why. So I was in the market for a truck. I was considering the Tacomas like George owns, but I wanted to get into the K-truck scene. And after doing some research and digging around, I decided the K-truck wouldn't be for me. I need to be able to drive highway miles, or speed limits at least, and have something that's a little bigger and a little bit more capable than you can get from a K-truck. Plus, we won't get into all the semantics about all the things that are going on with K-trucks in certain states and their legality and all that. But if you do know, this is not a K-truck. It is just a normal truck from Japan, so it doesn't fall in that classification. Anyways, I digress. I got some notes here to go over the truck to show you guys what's in it and on board for running gear, and we'll get into that. So, this truck's engine is a 2.8 liter 3L series diesel engine. It was made from 1977 to present. I think they're on to a different number letter at least now in terms of the engine number, but mine's a third generation L series engine. It's the same engine that's in the Toyota Hilux that's world renowned. And for the transmission, we have a 5-speed manual, good old classic to keep you going down the road with little to no worries, paired with a nice 4-wheel drive system, old school as it should be with manual front locking hubs. Now for some power numbers and economy figures for this truck. We're making a whopping 80 to 90 horsepower, depending on the day of course, and 136 foot-pounds of torque. In terms of fuel economy, just like a lot of diesels, in the winter your economy goes down a little bit. So right now, you can see if there's some snow on the ground in the scene, I get around 15 to 16 miles per gallon, while in the summer I get almost 19 to 21 miles per gallon, which is the upper end of this truck. I'd say that's pretty good for a frickin' brick. And for our towing capacity, it's absolutely none because I have no trailer hitches in the back, but I do have a decent load capacity of 850 kilograms, which is about, see on my cheat sheet here, 1,800 pounds, which is not too shabby for this little truck, which is a 4-cylinder, bear in mind.
So unlike Connor's, mine has a hood, and underneath that hood is a 4-liter V6 gas engine. In my opinion, the best engine that they made, the GR family of engines. Paired to that engine is a 5-speed automatic transmission, which has some saying it's the best pairing that they did in the Tacoma. This truck is a 4-wheel drive truck. It is electronic and switch control to the inside. Super easy, super modern, and a lot quicker and easier than Connor's truck. The 4-liter V6 engine does put out a good bit of horsepower, 236 horsepower at 266 foot-pounds of torque. So there may be a big difference in the horsepower and torque ratings, but for fuel economy, they're really equal. This truck, stock, averages 17 to 18 miles per gallon. However, this truck, me driving it, in the summer on the highway, I can get about 19 miles per gallon as the top end. That's premium gas, and that's pure interstate. Outside of that, when you're driving around in town, especially in the wintertime, it does go down a lot, and I'm actually getting 13.8 miles per gallon regularly right now. So I'm actually very lucky with this truck, and it is a TRD off-road, so it is equipped with a tow package. So if I hook a trailer and I'm hauling, I can actually tow up to 6,400 pounds with this truck. pretty good for a small truck this size. Now, when you're stacking stuff in the bed, it's actually a little bit less than his truck, oddly enough, and it's up to 1,430 pounds safely. So now that we've discussed some specifications, let's get back over with Connor and let's start talking about maintenance.
All right, guys, let's now talk about service with the Hiace. Now, the biggest elephant in the room with the Hiace is, well, parts availability. I'm strictly limited to buying OEM parts online where I can. I tend to use Amayama for most of my parts, whether big or small, for my services, and sometimes I can complement it by using eBay and part numbers from Amayama. Other than that, I don't really have any option. I can't go to the corner store to just get parts, so I'm strictly limited to just buying stuff online. That comes in not so handy for you, especially if you need to wait a few weeks for parts and you need the truck right now, but I'd recommend just having a backup vehicle in that instance. Other than that, when it actually comes to ownership, as long as you're driving a vehicle every day, it's pretty basic. For my oil changes, I use Rotella 10W30 and a OEM filter. And then every time I fill up, I use fuel treatment. I use the Hot Shots Diesel's everyday treatment and just put an ounce of that in every fill up. Other than that, I've done some few other major services. I did do a clutch on this truck because it was needing a clutch when I first bought it. The release point was a little bit high and I knew it'd end up coming up, and now I have a new clutch in the truck. Other than that, just basic service, keeping an eye on everything, and maybe a few inspections every once in a while just to keep up with the truck. It's going to really benefit you to just stay on top of the truck, use it regularly, and look for the future for any services. That way you're not stuck behind when you're ordering parts and you need the truck right now.
So moving on to service on my Tacoma. So the most frequent service that I do perform is an oil change. I use 5W30 full synthetic oil with an OEM oil filter. With each oil change, I do use BG's MOA kit, which includes the MOA, the EPR, and the 44K fuel system cleaner. Since purchasing this used, I have performed a few other services and repairs, which include the spark plugs, the PCV valve. I've drained and refilled the front differential and the transmission. So as you can tell, my truck is lifted, and with a lift comes worn components. So I've actually replaced the suspension components underneath of my truck. Whether it's the oil change to that front end rebuild, the parts availability has been very good. I could go to the corner store and get the parts over the counter, or if I'm looking for more OE or aftermarket parts, go online and have the parts shipped to my house in just a few days. All right, now that we've gone over some basic information, discussed some maintenance, what do you think? We should go around these things and talk about what we like and dislike?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
So moving on to the Tacoma, we do have a standard truck look. So we have a hood, a large fancy grille, not as big as they're getting today, especially when you're talking like F350s and things like that. But we do have a large emblemed grille with chrome accents. We do have an aftermarket bull bar up here for in case of emergencies, but not really feeling like this would do that much, so it is aesthetically pleasing as well. I did install these actually aftermarket smoked headlights, which we actually just re-cleared, and they're popping pretty good. For another aspect of the front end, we have fog lights, and down here the bulbs have been changed. They're bright LEDs now, so they stand alone a little bit different than the headlights themselves, but we're going to work on that once at some point. Down here, the fog lights are relatively simple, but they do really pull the front end together. Looking at this truck in size, the front really does match the rear. I really like the aesthetic when you're looking front to rear. It's not too long, not too short, whatever the case may be. But overall, it's a simple look with a nice regular truck vibe. I did add another antenna over there, as the original antenna was the long whip style, and it actually came loose, unfortunately, and rubbed the paint away. Speaking of the paint, we have actually repainted this. So I had paint flaking issues going on, especially around the pillars, the A pillar, B pillar, around the door jambs, the hood, and fenders. So it's a common problem with these trucks, especially in the white, and I hate that it happened to me, but it did, and it may be happening to you. So we did actually buzz this all down with help from some guys from work, got this repainted this past fall, and so far it's doing really well.
All right, so let's go ahead and start here at the front of the truck and work our way back. As you can see, not a lot is going on with this truck. Just, basic cab over, flat nose with a slightly raked back windshield. What's nice in this truck, great visibility out the front, sides, and the rear of this truck. So visibility is not too much of an issue with this truck. For headlight setup in this front on these trucks, they're pretty low down to meet the reg and in terms of Japan. But we have high beam, low beam in the center of this lens here. We have fog lights in the front, and then on the side we have turning lamps. So every time I turn my turn signal on, this bad boy flashes, and this will light up anything on the turn. So it's just really nice. I actually gotten used to having it, so it's nice seeing that extra light when you're taking a tight turn. And then basic badge up here in the front. Hiace lettering for the logo. There's on each side of the door too as well. And as you can see around the lettering here from when they painted it before it came here, they didn't really do a good job with masking. It's kind of one of my gripes is they did an alright job, but you know, I should probably just be grateful that it's got some good paint on it. Usually these things are pretty rusted up even on the exterior of the truck in terms of the paint job. Basic wipers, nothing special here. In terms of the mirror setup, you have a basic mirror that's mounted to the A-pillar here on the right side of the truck, and on the left side of the truck you have an extended out mirror that has stowing and pivoting capabilities. I believe even on these trucks you can get them in a power option. This one is not. And then we have a nice nose mirror here in the front, so when you're trying to get nice and up and tight stuff and you're in a tight lot and you don't have the room, you can just look at this nose. And I've been driving around a lot sometimes and I'll get like this close to somebody in a lot just so I can get around them, and that's only because I had that nose mirror. So that's pretty much wraps it up for the front. Nothing else basic other than your basic manual antenna. Sorry, forgot that right there. And pretty simple. The only thing I do concern and worry about on this truck is this windshield. If it breaks, you can't ship glass out of Japan from like Amayama or anything, so it'd be kind of a bear to get a new glass windshield. And I don't think there's really going to be a parts replacement that's equivalent here, so it'd probably be a custom make instance.
So jumping to the inside here, it's very, very simple. I would say they spent a lot of their money on the R&D of the drivetrain platform, which is fantastic again, but in here for 2011 it's pretty standard. I would say we have what we need, sometimes a little bit more than what we need, but comparing it to today's standard, it's very basic. Over here I'll start on the left side where we have lots of different switch functions. This one is the TRD off-road, so it is relatively loaded. We have our diff lock button, bed outlet, fog lights, mirror switch, traction control, some hill descent stuff, and just your generic off-road capabilities that came with this truck are all on this switch panel over here. Jump into the middle. I've added some cables as you can see because they've held me back just a little bit. They did upgrade in the 2013-14 models and actually update this whole interface, including the steering wheel, which I wish I had, but I don't, so I just have to deal with this. We have our classic broken plastic, which you'll see in a bunch of these trucks. If you're looking to buy one, look out for that. Make sure this is intact, but you can replace that all for relatively cheap. This is a push button style radio. We do have a CD changer with the JBL premium sound, which actually sounds fantastic. There's a sub in the back of the truck here. And then going down, we have just air controls right here where we can turn to heat, turn to cold. Of course, you can see how to run it, AC on off. There are a couple special cubbies in here with being right here. So I keep things like tissues in case I need to cry, or over here, keys in case I need to get into a building. It's very point forward, driver friendly, and I'm a big fan. If you jump over here, of course, we have our glove box, which we won't go too deep in there, but it's sized well, and that's actually access to your cabin air filter. For the seat comfort, we have really decent cloth seats. Of course, they're not going to go over the top and give you leather and things like that because this is a very simple design. But we have a comfortable seat. A major complaint that I have, as well as others, is that the seat leaves you, for your front legs, off of it, leaving you very, very low. They actually do have a spacer kit, which you could buy or make and insert under the two front bolts here on the seat, which I need to do because I'm a tall guy and my legs are always up here, and not driving with your knees not the most fun thing on earth. It is manual seat front, of course, passenger too, and then manual reclination, which really cramps the guy in the back. Looking at the steering wheel, we won't leave that. We have our steering wheel controls, which you will find, if you have one, and you may already have found, that this dial here gets a little sticky. So this guy is my new best friend when it comes to volume for the radio. I find myself having to do this if somebody's calling me or whatever, just so I can actually control the radio. Otherwise, it's a wild ride of up or down. Over here, cruise control on this switch, and really friendly to use and nice. Just cancel, start, up and down gives you speed. So overall, really easy access and generally a good design. We'll go jump in the back seat here and see what it has to offer and see what we like. Now I really don't want to jump in the back seat here because that is one of the major fails that they have with this truck. For me being 6'4", it's really hard to be comfortable in this truck, which the Hiace totally has this beat in that regard because I can hop in and flop sideways. I could even sleep in the back of that truck. But I'm going to get in for you with how I drive just to show how cramped it can be, and you guys can laugh. Oh yeah. So getting in here, I don't know if this reminds you of guys riding the bus back in the day with your feet cocked up on the back seat, but that's what it reminds me of. So I can still get relatively comfortable back here. Not really want to do it for a long time, but I can shut the door and my knee is actually clear. So if I were driving and there was a guy, say my brother, who's as tall as I am, sitting in the back seat, he can sit back here, but it's not the most comfortable thing for long drives. It is, however, very simple back here. We have 2 cup holders. Remember, it says so, capped bottles only. You have to use capped bottles in there. But we have cup holders for the back driver there, as well as in the door pocket. And very simple switch designs on that door panel. Up, down, lock, and open the door. It's not crazy back here, but it's good enough for what it needs to be. Definitely not a road trip machine, but from the back seat perspective, but overall it does pretty good. They did add a little bit more storage in the back seat, which I'll showcase here. Go up and up, and they have these nice little storage boxes back here for where they store the jack and everything. And then for me to put, mainly I put my straps back here for what I'm using. But this is nice under seat storage, which really is in a good spot, and so they did make very good use of that space and allow for you to really pack it full if you wanted to.
So here in the front seat of the cab of the truck, it's pretty basic, as you can see. Nice though, it's not super, you know, cushion lush, but because of that, it's kind of windy and noisy going on the road. The door seals aren't the tightest, so there's a lot of wind noise going down the road in this truck. But if you're driving it daily, you really don't tend to notice it too much, and it's really not that bad otherwise. But because of it being not sealed so well for noise, even it gets pretty cold in this truck, so you can almost guarantee whatever temp outside it is, when you walk out in the morning, it's going to be the same inside the truck. So it takes a minute for the truck to warm up on the interior side of things. Up here in the front, we have 3 seating. The driver's seat over here on the right side, obviously, because it's a right-hand drive vehicle. And then you're able to fit 2 people there on that bench seat. We've gotten 2 people there before, but it's a little bit of a tight squeeze and a little bit uncomfortable because you get kind of in the way of the driver here for the shifter. Basic floor mats throughout the entire truck. It's this vinyl flooring mat, and I made some little golf ball mats to help keep that a little bit cleaner and not get wet as much and as often, and it keeps it a little bit easier to clean. And it's just, you know, something nice to add to the truck. I mean, didn't have floor mats in the front when I got it, so I wanted something. And then in terms of controls, of course, your steering wheel's on the right side and your shifter's here, over here on your left hand. So people always ask me, is it weird shifting on the right? And I'm like, no, or sorry, yeah, shifting with my left hand. No, it's actually just intuitive with your right. So I'm gonna go ahead and hop up in here and mention that if you're a very tall statured individual, this probably won't be the best bet for you. Even the K-trucks are pretty dang tight. But I'm 5'10", so I'm like over there in Japan, probably on the taller end in terms of height, maybe for your average guy, and then here I'm just a normal height, so it's very comfortable. You have forward and seat adjustability front and back, and I sit here pretty dang comfortably. You have a lumbar support adjustment here. There's 3 clicks up and then 3 clicks down for all your lumbar, and then terms for your steering column, you also have tilt forward and tilt back. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the dash here. Pretty basic controls. You have a little clock up here, both on the dash and on the radio. Basic radio functions. I think, if I remember correctly, when I was looking at this, the radio AM frequencies don't match up with the ones here. So I get some stations. I don't tend to use the radio too much, and that's also because in this truck's, the speaker on the left side there was an option. So I only have the one speaker here on the right for the driver's side. Same goes for the sun visors up here at the top, only on the right side and not the left. The left side was funny, once again, an option. Basic cluster, you have RPM and your kilometers per hour. I don't have any kind of like template in there to help convert it to miles per hour. I just use my phone over here up on the dash with a speedometer app because it's just easier and simpler to deal with. And then one of the modern amenities I did add to myself to help my driving is I have a little like infotainment system here, so I can have my maps here and my speedometer still up on the dash. Basic glove box, pretty simple, nice and spacious. Some of your aircon vents coming across the dash, one for passenger. I usually keep that one pointed at the window, so if it's a little frosted up, it stays defrosted. And in terms of your aircon controls, you have, your basic face and feet, the drill, and then defrost as well. And then you have cold, fresh air, so whatever temp the air is outside, but fresh. And then you have heat, and then you can change obviously from circulation inside the cab and outside the cabin. In terms of the lever controls on the column, your wiper is over here. It took me about a week to get used to the fact that the turn signal is on my right hand. I know some cars here they're that way too, but not more often than not, your turn signal is on your left hand. So it took me some time to get used to that. In terms of shifter, it's pretty sloppy. I'll be the first to say that because it's got a pretty long linkage bar system in it, so it's really not a fast shifter. So you get really used to slow driving like a bigger truck almost. So you get speed up and take your time shifting to the next gear, especially from first to second. And then once you get out of that first to second range, you're kind of pretty smooth shifting from there. It's a little bit easier because the RPMs are up a little bit higher. Got an ashtray up here in the front. I don't smoke, so really not important. Though a lot of the people that had these vehicles for construction smoked a lot, so there's one gripe also when I got the truck. Seats are pretty dirty, but they're not too bad, but they're usually riddled with cigarette burns. I have one here on the driver's seat I'm covering up right now, and I just wish it could be a little bit cleaner. If you want a much cleaner version of this truck, you're gonna have to pay a little bit extra, but the thing is they tend to be the fire trucks. So yeah, so that's pretty much wraps it up for the front. It's pretty basic, nothing too complicated. Pedal orientation's the same, that never really changes, and just your basic amenities. Oh, one more important thing. On these trucks, you got a cup holder. So you can actually keep your drinks while going down the road. I know a lot of K trucks don't have those, and a little coin holder up in the cup holder. And then you got a little tray right there for some other stuff. I put, checks in there sometimes or whatever, some notes. So let's go ahead and move into the back of the truck here. I'll go ahead and hop down. So here in the back of the truck, not much going on either. It's 3-row seating in the back as well. So you got that total seating capacity of 6 people or 6 individuals. Basic floors, once again, just a normal basic floor mat I got for the back of this thing. That vinyl flooring here in the back. You got your seat belts, buckles, and latches. What's nice too, I usually carry a lot of tools in my vehicle, so I always have my seat in the rear stowed up for my convenience for stowing and carrying stuff. And what's nice about this truck, I believe it came with the winter package, hence why I have the rear seat heater. Not every Hiace is going to come with that necessarily if it's a double cab. I've seen trucks that don't have it, so if you have the winter package, you should have that rear seat heater. If not, I think the provisions for the holes in the floor are there, so if you could get your hands on one somehow, you can throw one in the back seat, and the control for that is in the left side of the cab there. And then when it comes to the doors, there's the same front and back. You got your basic door panel, nothing complicated in terms of details or anything. Basic hand crank windows, usually grab handle to close the door. And one gripe I do have about this configuration, there's no lock cylinders on the back doors. So in order to even open the back doors, if they're locked, you have to reach through up in this little pocket here and open and unlock the doors that way if you want to get in the back, or lock them before you close up for the night if you have tools in the back or something. And then what's supposed to be here, if you're noticing, it's supposed to be a little ashtray that I lost a long time ago, along with our rear dome light for the back seat area. And then each side has a grab handle for getting in and out if you need it. In terms of leg group in the back, it's not too bad either. If you're of moderate stature, not too bad. Not a little tight there on the knees, but if you're not going far, it's not going to be that much of a big deal. And then one more feature I forgot about in the front, if you look through here in the back, you'll see that this is a tray actually on the back of the passenger seat. You can hit the little latch, fold that down, and then you have a little tray for paperwork or whatever you need to stow there if you're just working by yourself. I tend to just leave it up because I don't use it that often.
So back in the back, this one is decked out with some original Toyota equipment. This one has a tonneau cover, which I really am a fan of. If I were to go buy one these days, I would get a hard tonneau cover, maybe the electric opening one, but it does take up a little bit more space this way. So this roll-up kind is good. It's just not quite as safe. Looking at the back itself, you'll see that it has the rugged, hard flooring, and they did do that on the sides as well. Underneath the tonneau cover, they've added a few, and these are some aftermarket little additions. There's little hook points. The factory ones in the bed right here did come with it. but these have been added so that I could tie things down a little bit better, because originally without the tonneau cover, it would be in these rails right here. I'm gonna hop up in here and show you guys the little cubbies and things. So I just used the tire, which is not the most comfortable, a little harder to get up, especially with the lift, but we do have these cubby holes where I keep straps in the bed of this truck. My favorite, an absolute awesome tool in the bed of this truck, is the power outlet. It has a 110 power outlet, which cannot power all things. It's pretty low amperage, but it does do exactly what you need it to. And as long as you keep it clean and free of dirt, it's awesome. And you just control that on the switch inside on the left side panel of the driver's seat, and you can run it on accessory or when the truck's running. Over here we have more storage. You can pop these covers off, which is really sweet. So if you need something a little larger, that'll just be outside, then you can stuff things like straps in there, the original tie downs put in there. And overall, it's a really good design. I do say I did get the small bed, so you can blame me on that, but I do think that the overall use of the bed sides here takes away a lot of space, and the overall length is lacking a little. I will say there's been times where I wanted some coverage, like the tonneau cover gives me, or a capper gives you, but needed more lengths. So in that case, sometimes a 4Runner could be a little bit better, because you can still fold down that seat in the 4Runner and have the bed active the same way that I get use out of this one. I will say that the overall design of the back, which I'm going to hop down here and look at the tailgate, is very simple. Nice chrome badges and very, very easy to use. The tailgate itself is really light, much like the doors. Very easy to open and close. Nice chrome bumper, good tow hitch. We actually have a 7-pin with the tow package that we discussed. We have a 7-pin trailer plug, which I dumbed down to the 5-pin with an adapter for most uses on this, because that's big boy towing. And then it's just a good overall look. These are the factory taillights. I wouldn't change much about the bed or anything besides maybe a little more length. Sometimes I wish I had a little more towing capacity and a little bit of a bigger bed in terms of truck, but overall this thing does exactly what I need it to. It always gives me more than I ask, and I really wouldn't change too much.
So in the back of the bed here, we're sporting just a little bit over 5 feet and a little bit over 6 feet. Not much, but a lot more than most American trucks, which is nice. And what's the nicest part about this, and I use it a bunch, is I have the folding side bed. You could option these trucks, whether they're double cab or not, with I believe a just normal bed size. They kind of look like the Hilux bed size from what I've seen. And you just little lever here, almost like a fence gate, pull this down, fold that to the side, one more latch up here in the front, and your bed sides fold down for your convenience for all your side loading needs. And what's nice, if you got something extra heavy and you don't want to pop the other side, you can just go ahead and put down the back tailgate too, put the heavy object on the corner, and then slide it the rest of the way in, which is nice. So it makes your options for loading a little bit more easier and a little bit more open for terms of getting big things in the back of the truck. And also, if I wasn't missing some of my rubber bumpers, you can leave the bed sides down as well if you want to. I've never really drive with the bed sides down because my tires rub it, because I'm missing the bumpers on the sides of the truck. Put it together, just go ahead and put those back in, and then your bed sides all back together, and latch that down. Some other neat stuff on the back of the truck here. Got basic taillights, you got your load capacity, so 850 kilos, like we probably mentioned a little bit earlier in the video. And what's nice too is you have provision for a footstep in the back of the bed here, as well as a strap point right down there for any flat towing needs, whatever, if you need to pull something. And then we got our spare tire nestled down under here, and the instructions for that are right there. And yeah, pretty nice. It's very utilitarian bed. So you have lots of options for loading. You even have some tie bone straps here on each side of the bed. I believe there's 3 on each side and 2 in the rear. And also you can, if you wanted to, just hook to the heavy duty lip here on the edge of the bed. And then we also have a cab step over here on the back of the bed to get up into the bed if you need to for some reason. And then we also have up here at the top some little ears. So if you have long stuff, you can go ahead and just fold those up, support the back somehow, or if you just lean them down from an angle, like 2x4s or something, you can just have them that slide side to side there, and then the good old headache rack. Other than that, she's very basic in construction, but just like a lot of Toyotas, they rust pretty easily. And this thing was in Japan, and I believe the Kanagawa prefecture right next to Tokyo or whatever it was, I can't remember exactly. And it's rusted pretty bad on the cab and the bed a little bit, but it's to be expected. The vehicle is already, 27 years old when it came to me, so a little rust is expected. But if you keep on top of it and keep it clean, it should be fine. But inevitably, you will have to make your repairs for any rust on the vehicle. This one's pretty solid, hence why I was willing to jump on it and actually buy it, because the rust was really not that bad on the truck and the frame is in great shape. So there's the Hiace, super utility, pretty good mileage, the old brick as I like to call it, and gets me going where I need to do and do everything I need to do for what I do. I'm a mechanic, so it's been very useful to have for me. Okay, before we decide to close up this video, we decided to each give our final thoughts on the vehicles by both test driving each other's vehicles to help give us some insight on each other's trucks before we actually make a decision. So let's get going. Now we gotta get out of here. Oh man, those brakes are stiff. Let's start with that. Now let's take it. Come on, get up. There it goes. All right, now that we're moving and driving, I'll tell you one thing. The first thing I noticed is this truck is a lot quieter than mine. Seating's nice, visibility's great. Got a little bit of a big A pillar on the left side here and the right side. Of course, I started driving in left-hand drive cars just like everybody does. So being used to the left hand is already normal for me. And in terms of the ride, I mean, it's smooth, nice, comfortable, quiet. I like it. It's got a lot of nice amenities to it, and man, it's just like a new car. What I do like a lot though about this car is though, those old early 2000 vehicles, just their nice basic simplicity. Nothing super complicated. It's got that feel, even though it's a 2011. And that's what I just like about it. It's bare bones basics, just what you need at the end of the day.
All right, now it's time for me to drive this beast. Oh, never driven this one before. It's definitely gonna take some thought because I am not familiar with right-hand driving. Put my clutch down here, push and twist. Should be in first. Let's give it a shot. All right, so far it's already feeling weird. We thought this was very important. We had to test drive each other's rigs to understand what was going on. So I'm over here, what feels like a box truck. Holy cow, this is very weird. Sorry for that person. Got a low revving diesel, so we're gonna shift at 3 there. Oh yeah, crisp and nice. Weird movement, thinking left to right. I have been in a box truck before, but not a right-hand drive one. A right-hand drive Jeep I've been in, but this is something a little bit different to me. Definitely foreign. I'm gonna take after him and hug this right side of the road because that's weird on that side of the yellow. So overall, man, I will say I do not like the placement of the clutch for my height. It doesn't quite fit the way that I need it to. But the gauges are very nice. We have kilometers on the left, which is very strange in itself, and then the revs on the right, which is not too bad. We got the heat going here. I'm going to cut that down just a little bit. Easy to run control panel. Lots of room besides for my knee. Feels kind of like a Model A in terms of leg space. But we got a really responsive steering wheel. Wow. And we're driving a manual, so now we're going to third. Over left back to second. That's weird. And we're in business. It's making sense. It's making sense and not too bad. Okay, here we go. That's on the right, which is really weird. Got somebody behind me, so I can't really make a mistake. Oh, that was third. All right, overall, I can understand why it's fun. It's fun sitting over. The vantage point here is fantastic. I have clear views outside of this thing. Non-tinted windows, which make everything very nice to see. We're gonna go to second this time, and then first here in a second. Oh yeah, first takeoff is a lot easier. And then the fun part about it is you're in a diesel. You feel like a trucker, especially with the manual gearbox. Kind of liking that. Mine feels more like an everyday SUV compared to a truck, which is sometimes really nice. I don't have to think about it or anything. But this is completely different. And exactly what I expected in the terms of strange. But I do understand where he's coming from. I do enjoy the space a lot. The simpleton approach to everything. And overall, it is pretty comfortable. I will say, I wish they put a little padding in these seats. Kind of feels like somebody's been sitting on the same wagon for 70 years. It's not even 70 years old. But there's a first again. Whip it over. Bang. And to do this every day would be very, very weird. All right, oops, forgot to signal because I can't remember where that is. All right, I kind of understand the hype behind the Hiace here. This is pretty fun. Of course, it does kind of feel like a 9-to-5 job getting it in gear and where I'm going. Of course, that's because my brain's not linked yet with the whole left hand shift thing. But it does have a completely different feel. It feels very, very quick to rev, super low horsepower. That is what I'm looking for. Okay, but it serves its purpose. I would be interested to try the four-wheel drive off-road and on a mountain scene, because I don't picture it doing super well there, but especially with today's trails and the need for an electronic diff and things like that, just make life super easy. So the overall purpose-built daily driver Japanese right-hand drive truck, I could see the appeal a little bit. Still, I like driving on the left side. This is more for mail carriers than it is for me. But driving it does help a little bit. I really like how smooth this engine is. Everything feels really well balanced, including the steering, which is kind of shocking to me. I think we need a touch of an alignment because we're trailing off to the right. But you can just counteract that. And man, you do feel like a trucker with the wheel. Woo, yeah. You are over top of everything, kind of feel in control. Getting used to the mirrors, though, is something different. So overall, my experience here is that this is vastly different than anything I've ever been a part of, driven. And I can see the appeal. I see what this is. I really love the power plant, and this gearbox feels pretty good. So I think that for a recreational vehicle, this would be a very fun one to have. But for a daily driver and a commuter, I think the Tacoma's got it beat in a lot of ways. So we're going to answer the question, do you dare to be different? For me, unless you're an absolute Japanese truck fanatic, been waiting 25 plus years, maybe work in the city as a contractor, delivery person, the clear winner and choice for me is the Toyota Tacoma. With adequate power, amenities that are very modern, and a parts network and aftermarket world that is so vast. Different to me means building and personalizing your own version of the same truck that everybody else has. What do you got?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with George's statement there. I mean, if I wasn't big into the Japanese truck, I probably would have just gone with the Tacoma and did exactly what he described, because that's just the safest route. We're both mechanics, so working on something like this is not an issue, but if you're not, it's really almost a hassle to own, and which will, I think, personally take away from the joy in ownership. However, since we're both mechanics and we have some tools and equipment at our disposal to maintain both of our vehicles, I found that with my current standings, I was able to own one of these without making it, the most bare of my existence, just to own one. And you know what? So far, I've been thoroughly impressed. The vehicle has exceeded my expectation, especially for a vehicle that hasn't even lived for 25 years of its life. Even here, I just have to go off on faith, essentially, on if it's been taken care of or not. And you know what? It's exceeded my expectations, and I decided to dare to be different, really, because I wanted something different. And I'm not a big pickup guy normally, but this was what got me into them. And you know, now I can see myself owning more different trucks now in the future, potentially, if this doesn't stick around. But it'd probably end up being a Tacoma though in the end. But I like my Hiace. I'm gonna stick with it and keep using it every day until either I'm tired of it or, God, I've been talking about it lately here and there. Maybe rebuild it completely myself and then just refresh it. Who knows? Future will hold for me, at least on the truck. But yeah, I'd say that's all I got in my terms of closing arguments. So
We'll see how long she lasts.
yeah, we'll see how long she lasts.
All right, thank you guys for watching. Let us know in the comments which Toyota you would choose. This has been really fun, and this is George Dagger's Garage signing off. We'll see you in the next one.